Imagine waking up tomorrow to discover that the fundamental currency of the entire future has suddenly been revalued. No announcement, no grand press conference, just a quiet, calculated adjustment that instantly rewrote the rules of the global technology race. This isn't about consumer graphics cards or video games. This is about raw, unfiltered artificial intelligence compute. Nvidia, the undisputed kingmaker of the modern world, has just raised the price of its cutting-edge AI chips by a staggering 15%. In an industry where companies are already spending billions of dollars just to stay competitive, a 15% price hike is not just an incremental adjustment. It is a financial earthquake. Roll gloomy aerial view of the San Francisco skyline at dusk. It is a systemic shockwave that will redefine who builds the future, who gets priced out, and how fast the technology that is currently reshaping human civilization can actually scale. The rules of the game just changed overnight, and almost nobody is prepared for what comes next. To understand the sheer magnitude of this problem, you have to look at the fragile economics of the generative AI boom. Right now, building frontier artificial intelligence models is a financial black hole. Startups and tech giants alike are burning through capital at an unprecedented rate, purchasing thousands of enterprise GPUs just to train their next-generation models. Graph showing cost of AI training scaling exponentially upward. A single high-end enterprise GPU cluster can cost hundreds of millions of dollars to build and maintain. When you slap a 15% surcharge on top of that, you are suddenly looking at tens of millions of dollars in unexpected, unbudgeted expenses. For mega corporations like Microsoft, Meta, and Google, this is an incredibly expensive annoyance. But for the middle tier of tech firms, the promising open-source builders, and the ambitious startups, this is a literal death sentence. Modern server racks with blinking blue and orange lights running at maximum capacity. They are now trapped in a vicious compute squeeze. They cannot train their models without Nvidia hardware, but they can no longer afford to buy it at scale. If they pass the costs on to their customers, they risk killing adoption. If they absorb the cost, they run out of runway and go bankrupt. Nvidia has effectively created an artificial ceiling on innovation, deciding who gets to play in the sandbox of the future and who gets locked outside the gates. How did we get here? How did a company that used to make graphics cards for teenagers playing video games end up holding a virtual monopoly over the infrastructure of global intelligence? To understand this, we have to look back at the masterstroke of genius executed by Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang over a decade ago. On Jensen Huang, wearing his iconic black leather jacket, smiling on stage at a massive conference. While the rest of the silicon industry was focused purely on raw hardware performance, Jensen realized that hardware is nothing without software. They created CUDA, a proprietary software platform that allows developers to program Nvidia GPUs directly for general-purpose parallel computing. For over 15 years, every computer science graduate, every AI researcher, and every software engineer has been trained on CUDA. This created an impenetrable software lock-in, showing struggling competitors in a dark, stylized grid. Even if a rival like AMD or Intel produces a chip that matches Nvidia on raw performance, software developers don't want to use it because rewriting their entire code stack to run on non-Nvidia hardware is a logistical nightmare. Because of this strategic moat, Nvidia controls over 90% of the AI chip market. When you control 90% of the supply for a commodity that has infinite demand, you don't have to play by the rules of free market capitalism. You make the rules. The deeper you dig into the mechanics of this price increase, the more shocking the numbers become. Let's look at the cold hard numbers that Nvidia doesn't want you to look at too closely. Clean room, automated robotic arms handling delicate silicon wafers with lasers flashing. Nvidia doesn't actually manufacture its own chips. They are a fabless semiconductor company, meaning they design the architecture, but outsource the actual physical printing of the silicon to Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC. Recently, TSMC raised its foundry prices due to rising energy costs, supply chain complexities, and geopolitical tensions surrounding Taiwan. Screen briefly distorts with digital static, to emphasize a sudden market disruption. But here's the kicker. TSMC only raised their manufacturing prices to Nvidia by roughly 5 to 8%. Nvidia didn't just pass that cost down to the consumer, they padded it significantly, turning a manufacturing cost increase into a highly profitable 15% surcharge for themselves. Keep in mind, Nvidia already boasts some of the most outrageous profit margins in industrial history. Estimates suggest that a single high-end H100 chip, which was retailing for around $30,000 to $40,000, costs Nvidia less than $4,000 to manufacture. Bold gold text fading onto a dark background. With their new Blackwell architecture, commanding prices upwards of $70,000 per unit, a 15% increase means customers are paying tens of thousands of dollars more per chip, purely to boost Nvidia's profit margins past 75%. This isn't just inflation, it is the ultimate exercise of absolute monopoly power. But this price hike isn't just about corporate greed or satisfying Wall Street shareholders. There is a much deeper, far more calculated strategy at play here. This is a deliberate, systematic squeeze play to consolidate power. Close-up of hands typing furiously on a glowing mechanical keyboard in a dark room. By raising the barrier of entry by 15%, Nvidia is actively choosing its partners. They are signaling that they are no longer interested in supplying the democratic, open-source AI movement. Instead, they are aligning themselves exclusively with the elite sovereign states and trillion-dollar tech titans. Sovereign wealth funds from countries like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates are currently buying up enterprise GPUs like they are the new digital crude oil. Graphic: a heavy iron gate slamming shut over a map of Silicon Valley startups, symbolizing the barrier to entry. They have endless pools of capital and do not care about a 15% price increase. Microsoft, Meta, and Google have balance sheets that can absorb this blow without missing a beat. By raising prices, Nvidia is intentionally choking out the independent startups and developers. They are ensuring that the future of artificial general intelligence will not be birthed in a garage by a group of rebellious hackers. It will be built exclusively inside the walled gardens of the ultra-wealthy, under strict corporate and state supervision. The dream of a decentralized, democratic AI is officially dead, and Nvidia is the one who pulled the trigger. However, this is where the story takes a wildly unexpected turn. While Nvidia's move seems like a devastating blow to the AI industry, it might actually spark the very revolution that ends their monopoly. Quick transition to a glowing brain made of circuitry, lighting up from within. Up until now, AI developers have been incredibly lazy. When a model wasn't smart enough, they didn't rewrite the code to make it more efficient. They simply threw more brute force compute at it. They bought more Nvidia chips. But now, with compute prices skyrocketing, developers can no longer afford to be lazy. This financial pressure is forcing a software efficiency renaissance. Time-lapse of a bustling city center at night, with glowing light trails representing data flow. Researchers are suddenly finding brilliant ways to shrink models down so they can run on consumer-grade hardware or smaller, specialized ASICs. We are seeing the rise of small language models, or SLMs, that achieve 90% of the capability of GPT-4 while requiring only a fraction of the computing power. By pricing the world out of its hardware, Nvidia has inadvertently created the ultimate incentive for developers to build software that doesn't need Nvidia at all. Sharp, clean font overlaying a minimalist coding screen. The price hike meant to secure their dominance may have just accelerated the path to their obsolescence. In the end, Nvidia's 15% price hike isn't just a corporate balance sheet adjustment. It is a historic turning point. Focusing on a single glowing chip labeled Blackwell, being lowered into a massive supercomputer array. It represents the transition of artificial intelligence from an open, experimental scientific frontier to a highly guarded, heavily taxed corporate oligopoly. While the giants will continue to pay the Nvidia tax, the rest of the world is being forced to innovate, optimize, and adapt. The coming years will show whether Jensen Huang's massive gamble will consolidate his empire forever, or if he has finally pushed his customers too far, paving the way for a new era of open, efficient, and decentralized computing that bypasses the silicon cartel entirely. If you want to stay ahead of the curve as this AI hardware war unfolds, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications for the AI News Network. Let us know in the comments. Do you think Nvidia is getting too powerful for its own good?